Welcome to WhisperFiles. Sit back, relax, and let me tell you a story. In late 1949, on the rocky shores of a small, isolated island, stood an old stone lighthouse. 4 sailors. It was the last light before the dangerous cliffs. But for the islanders, it was a place they preferred to avoid after sunset. Not because they claimed it was haunted, but because 20 years earlier, something had happened there. Something no one ever wanted to remember. Thomas was 45 years old, quiet, reserved, alone. He had no wife, no children, no one waiting for him when his work was done. When he heard the lighthouse was looking for a new keeper, he accepted without hesitation. Isolation never frightened him, perhaps because he had already grown used to living alone. When he arrived at the island's small harbor, the villagers welcomed him politely. But the moment he mentioned he would be living in the lighthouse, the conversations suddenly stopped. Several people exchanged uneasy glances. An old man gave a faint smile and quietly said, "Most people don't stay up there for very long." No one explained what he meant. Thomas assumed they were simply talking about how difficult the job was. The weeks passed peacefully. 1 month, then another, then a third. Life became routine. Every evening he lit the lighthouse beacon, checked the mechanism, lit 2 candles and an old lantern. Then sat alone, listening to the waves crashing against the rocks and the wind slipping through the cracks of the old stone tower. Little by little, he convinced himself that the stories from the village were nothing more than old superstitions. Until one night, he heard something that wasn't the wind and wasn't the sea. He slowly raised his head. Everything was still. Only the wind, he smiled. Just my imagination. The following night, at almost the exact same hour, the sound returned. This time it wasn't the wind. It was so faint, he couldn't even tell if it was real. It sounded like a whisper, not a word, not a sentence. Only a human voice trying desperately to say something, yet never managing to form a single clear word. Thomas grabbed his lantern and searched every corner of the lighthouse. He found nothing, and yet the whispers returned every single night. Over the following days, Thomas tried to convince himself that loneliness was playing tricks on his mind. He had spent months with almost no human contact. Perhaps his mind was creating sounds that didn't exist. But every night, the whispers returned, only for a few seconds, and each time, they seemed a little closer. One afternoon, Thomas went down to the village for supplies. He casually asked about the lighthouse. Most people lowered their eyes. Others immediately changed the subject. After a while, an old fisherman approached him. He looked out toward the sea and quietly said, 20 years ago, a ship never reached its destination. Since that night, the lighthouse has never been the same." Before Thomas could ask another question, the old man simply walked away. That night, the whispers returned. For the first time, Thomas didn't run. He followed them. Slowly, he descended the narrow wooden staircase. Every time he reached the place where he thought the whispers came from, they stopped, only to begin again somewhere else, as if someone was trying to guide him. He didn't feel threatened. He felt that someone was asking for help. But the following days passed the same way, until that night arrived. By late afternoon, the sky had turned dark. The wind howled around the tower. Massive waves slammed against the cliffs below. The lighthouse groaned under the force of the storm. The windows shook violently. The candle flames danced wildly. And yet, through all the chaos, the whispers were clearer than ever. Not louder, just closer. Lantern in hand, Thomas followed the whispers once more. For the first time, they didn't move. They came from behind an old wooden bookshelf. With great effort, he pushed it aside. Hidden behind, it was a small opening carved into the stone wall. Inside, a metal box. He opened it. There was no gold, no jewelry, only an old diary. On the very first page, October 29th, 1929. They told me the ship would change course. They paid me to leave the lighthouse dark for just one night. I believed them. When I heard the ship's bells through the fog, it was already too late. The screams have never left my mind. If anyone ever finds this diary, please tell the truth in my place. I never had the courage. Thomas froze. He looked at the diary, then at his own calendar. The date read, October 29th, 1949. Exactly 20 years later. At that moment, he finally understood. The whispers had never tried to frighten him. They had been leading him to the truth. The following morning, Thomas handed the diary over to the authorities. After 20 long years, the truth finally came to light. The shipwreck had not been an accident. It had been caused by greed. That night, the whispers never returned. The storm was gone. The sea was calm. And for the very first time, the old lighthouse felt truly peaceful. Some believe spirits remain behind, seeking revenge. Perhaps some simply wait for someone brave enough to hear their truth. Thank you for sticking with me until the very end. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to know whenever a new case is opened, ring the notification bell. Until next time, sleep well.